Welcome to video 4 in module 13, Radical Self-Love, and this one is about embracing the shadow. We mentioned in the previous video how from an early age we divided ourselves into two parts as another very effective of creating the experience of separation. On the one hand, we formed an identity based on what we got approval for. And on the other hand, a hidden, shame-based identity based on uncool shadow stuff, which we denied and repressed, hoping it would never rise to the surface again. And as we learned in part 1, in addition to the mechanisms of denial and repression, there is one other defense mechanism we use all the time to make sure we don't have to face our shadow and be confronted by our self-hatred, and that is the mechanism of projection. How this works is that if we feel there is any risk of our shadow material making its way up from deep down in the subconscious mind and entering the conscious awareness, we attract someone into our lives, or simply find someone, who seems to have about them a quality that matches of our shadow that we found disgusting and buried. As soon as we notice this quality in them, we see it as an opportunity to project that part of our shadow onto them. They become our scapegoats. We then make them wrong for it, becoming extremely judgmental and self-righteous towards them, thinking that we are looking in the mirror and seeing our own shadow reflected. By shifting our attention away from our own self-hatred and hurling it onto someone else, we avoid having to confront what we fear most, which is our own self-loathing. This is not a mechanism we use only occasionally. The fact is that we're doing it all the time. Projection is a perfect way to create separation, and it is responsible for much of the drama that we create in our lives, virtually on a daily basis, especially in our personal and working relationships. We not only project onto people we know personally, but onto people we read about or see on TV. All of which is fine while we're still in our pre-awakening phase. Projection gets us a lot of karmic units. However, what is also true is that while we maintain this split within ourselves, harboring, protecting our self-hatred, achieving self-love is impossible. Once we have awakened, however, and we no longer have any need to continue creating separation, the desire arises in us to find wholeness and self-acceptance within, which means healing our shadow. That in turn means coming to love every aspect of it. And one way to do that is by applying the 5-step process of transforming negative beliefs that we learned in the previous video. There's a problem here though. Almost everything that we've dumped into our shadow is buried so deep we have absolutely no awareness of it. In fact, if we were challenged on it and accused of any part of it, we would likely become very angry and defensive. So how are we going to use the 5-step process if we are oblivious of what is in our shadow? The answer, of course, and you should be by now, is to recognize that whatever we see in another person that we find unacceptable is a direct reflection of what we hate in ourselves and have denied, repressed, and projected it onto that person. If you spot it, you've got it, is the catchphrase we use to bring that home to people. Once we know that to be the case, we become willing to recognize what particular aspect of ourself is being reflected back to us. At that point, we take back the projection and own that part of our identity, even though it's likely to be just as false as any other narrative about who we are, and all the more so for having been shamed into thinking it was true. And as we noted in the previous videos, in this module, our intention is to love it. The moment this occurs, we're able to see the person who reflected our self-hatred no longer as our enemy, but as our healing angel, for having been willing to be of service in this way for us. At that point, he or she moves on or drops the behavior that created the upset in the first place. Those of you who have studied A Course in Miracles which is supposedly channeled by Jesus, will know that the central theme of the work is that the whole idea of taking back the projection is the principal means of our salvation. I point this out because there's a high degree of similarity between radical forgiveness and A Course in Miracles, and you will be likely to get clients familiar with it. So you should at least have an awareness of it. Anyway, the reason for recapping the principle of projection is to show you a way to give a client or your workshop participants the experience of discovering what is in their shadow, and then by using a worksheet known as the Embracing My Shadow worksheet to transform them. And if you haven't done so already, you might want to print out that worksheet now. The first step uses a little bit of necessary deception. I like to do this a long way in advance of doing anything related to projection, so they have no time asking them to do it. I give them a worksheet that is divided by a line down the middle and has a title, 10 Things I Dislike About, and then you draw a line so that a name can be put in there. The reason for the line down the middle is that I want them to do the exercise on 2 people that they feel critical about. I tell them to put that aside for later. Then, later on, after going over the whole idea of projection and how one comes to recognize that what you see in others is a reflection of what you hate in yourself, I give them the Embracing My Shadow worksheet. Get out the 10 Things worksheet and pick the top 5 from each list and put them on the top of the list on the Embracing Shadow worksheet. As soon as they see that, they gasp. Then comes a lot of discussion. I can see that in me, but I'm definitely not that. That's when you have to explain that the mirror can be a little distorted, or that the reflection may be sort of symbolic, and not as literal as it seems to be, and so on. But you cannot let them off the hook. There are no exceptions to the rule that what you see in another you don't like is a reflection of what you hate. The saving grace, however, is that you can assure them that they don't have to know what the real meaning is. All they need to know is that whatever they see is theirs, even if they don't quite recognize it. Remember, it's been buried in their unconscious mind for a very long time, so it's not surprising if they don't recognize it. The next stage is to take them through the worksheet, reading everything out loud slowly so they get the full meaning of every sentence. Here is the worksheet. The title, Embracing My Shadow. Number 1, I now see that my partner has been mirroring for me the following parts of myself I have made wrong and have judged, denied, repressed, and projected onto him or her. I thank him or her for mirroring the following parts of my shadow. And by the way, this worksheet was done as part of a relationship workshop, so that's why it's referencing partner, but put the name of the person that they had put on their 10 Things worksheet. So they put those 5 things, A, B, C, D, and E, and then read out the following sentences. Number 2, I'm now taking back the projections, and I'm now willing to love and accept those parts of me. They each are a part of who I am, and I would not be complete without them. And so they just check off whether they agree or disagree. Number 3, reading out loud as with all of them, I now realize that they are not things to be overcome or to fight with every day. Neither are they obstacles standing in my healing. I love and accept each one just the way they are. Agree, disagree. Number 4, as I become willing to love and accept these parts of me, I trust that if the underlying beliefs that caused me to form these shadow aspects were lies or misperceptions, they will dissolve automatically as I come to love them. Agree, disagree. 5, conversely, I realize that if I continue to judge those parts of myself and resist loving them, they will grow stronger. What you resist persists. Agree and disagree. Number 6, if the underlying belief about one or more is actually true, then my acceptance of it as just being who I am will allow me to transform the energy and use the positive power inherent in that part of me to good purpose. My perfection lies in my imperfection. And finally, number 7, having brought my shadow aspects to the light, I realize that my healing has come unbidden, and I honor and bless my partner for showing me the way. Agree and disagree. Then you sign it, thank you, and put the name in of the person who is now you see for being your healing angel. You sign it and date it. Okay, so that brings us to the end of Module 13. The next module offers you the opportunity to watch a number of videos and to draw some insights and conclusions from that experience. So we'll see you then.